The fluorescent light is buzzed above 25 third graders. Elijah Carter, 8 years old with dark skin and trembling hands, stood at the front holding a poster. My dad, Pentagon hero. Ms. Patricia Whitmore's lips curled into a sneer. The Pentagon? Her voice dripped with contempt. Oh, honey, let's be real. Your daddy pushes a mop there, doesn't he? Cleans toilets? Empty trash cans for the real workers? White students erupted in laughter. A boy shouted, "Janitor Dad!" Another mimicked mopping motions. Elijah's dad scrubs floors! Ms. Whitmore grabbed the poster and waved it mockingly at the class. Look, everyone, Pentagon hero! She tossed it in the trash can. The hollow thunk echoed. Then she grabbed Elijah's shoulder and shoved him toward his desk in the back corner. Sit down. Stop wasting our time with ghetto fantasies. The white parents in back said nothing. Some smiled. Elijah's tears hit his desk. Have you ever watched racism destroy a child in front of everyone? 4:30 a.m. The alarm beeped in a modest Arlington townhouse. General Lawrence Carter's hand shut it off before the second beep. No snooze. Never had been. At 47, his body moved with military precision. He sat up in the pre-dawn darkness, feet hitting cold hardwood. The bedroom smelled faintly of his late wife's perfume, 3 years gone but somehow still present in the curtains. On the dresser, their wedding photo. Sarah in white, him in dress blues. Next to it, photos of Elijah progressing from baby to 8-year-old, a timeline of widowed fatherhood. By 0600, Lawrence stood before his closet in a towel, steam from the shower still clouding the mirror. He pulled out his Army service uniform. 4 silver stars gleamed on each shoulder. His fingers moved automatically, pinning ribbons to his chest. Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Defense Distinguished Service Medal, Combat Infantry Badge above them all. Each piece of metal represented blood, sweat, and decisions that kept him awake at night. In the kitchen, morning light filtered through the windows. Lawrence made Elijah's lunch with the same care he applied to mission briefings. Turkey sandwich, crusts removed, apple slices in a container, granola bar, a yellow sticky note. Proud of you today, son. Show them who you are. Love, Dad. The fridge calendar showed today's date circled in red. Elijah's handwriting, Career Day! 3 exclamation points and a crayon heart. Lawrence's schedule was brutal. Morning briefing at the Pentagon until 1300 hours. Then straight to Jefferson Elementary for Elijah's presentation at 1400. He'd blocked it in his official calendar. His aide knew. The Secretary of Defense knew. For Elijah, Lawrence didn't negotiate. Jefferson Elementary sat in an affluent Arlington suburb where houses cost millions and lawns looked professionally manicured. The school gleamed with recent PTA-funded renovations. Mercedes and BMWs filled the parking lot each morning. Inside Ms. Patricia Whitmore's third-grade classroom, achievement stars covered one wall. Gold stars clustered thick beside certain names. Madison Thornton, 15. Tyler Rodriguez, 13. Elijah Carter, 2. Both faded, placed in the far corner like mistakes. The numbers told their own story. 25 students, 22 white, 2 Asian, 1 black. Elijah sat in the back corner beside the supply closet, despite scoring in the 95th percentile on standardized tests. His desk faced sideways, away from the smartboard. Ms. Whitmore called it a focus accommodation. She never suggested it for white students who actually disrupted class. Patricia Whitmore, 42, had taught at Jefferson for 18 years, tenured, untouchable. Her father was a retired congressman. Her husband is a downtown lawyer. She drove a Mercedes, wore Talbot's cardigans, and believed she couldn't be racist because she'd voted for Obama once. But her grade book revealed patterns. Last week, Elijah and Tyler submitted identical math tests. Same answers, same work shown. Tyler received an A with a gold star. Elijah got a B- with needs improvement scrawled in red. When Elijah raised his hand, she called on him last. When he spoke, she interrupted. When he excelled, she found reasons it didn't count. 3 black families had complained to the administration over the years. Their concerns sat in a file that never reached the school board. The principal called Ms. Whitmore demanding. White parents called her rigorous. Nobody called her what she actually was. The night before career day, Elijah sat at his kitchen table surrounded by markers and printer paper. He'd Googled Pentagon facts and written them carefully, 5 sides, 6.5 million square feet, where America's heroes work. He practiced in the bathroom mirror while brushing teeth. My dad protects our country. He's been in the Army for 25 years. He's important. Lawrence stood in the hallway listening. Pride and dread twisted in his chest. He knew what tomorrow would bring. He'd faced it his entire career, climbing ranks while people assumed he was the help, not the commander. He'd hoped his son could avoid it a little longer. That morning, Elijah carried his poster board to school like a treasure. Other students' projects sat on desks. Foam board, laminated photos, printed graphics. My mom, the surgeon. My dad, the architect. Elijah's was construction paper and crayon. Career day began at 2 p.m. 6 parents presented before Elijah. Ms. Whitmore gushed over each one. The architect, the dentist, the real estate mogul. When Elijah's turn came, she checked her watch. Let's make this quick, Elijah. I'm sure your father is busy. Her tone made busy sound like unemployed. Elijah stood at the front of the classroom, small hands gripping his poster board. The construction paper felt suddenly flimsy. Around him, 24 pairs of eyes stared. Most looked bored. Some looked amused. None looked kind. He cleared his throat. His voice came out smaller than he'd practiced. My dad works at the Pentagon. He helps keep America safe. He's been in the Army for 25 years. He held up pictures he'd printed from the library computer. The Pentagon building from above, its 5 sides clear. Soldiers in uniform saluting. An American flag. He has really important meetings with generals and admirals. He travels to other countries for his job. He protects all of us. Ms. Whitmore stood by her desk, arms crossed over her cream cardigan, her lips pressed into a thin line. She let him get exactly 3 sentences further before cutting in. Elijah. Her voice sliced through his words. Stop right there. Stop right. The classroom went silent. Even the kids who'd been whispering froze. She walked toward him slowly, heels clicking on linoleum. Each step is deliberate. When she reached him, she looked down from her full height. Elijah was small for 8. She towered over him. Sweetheart, we have a very important rule in this classroom. Do you remember what it is? Elijah's mouth went dry. Be honest. Exactly. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We tell the truth. We don't make up stories to sound important. But I'm not... Elijah. She held up one finger. Adults are talking now. She turned to face the class, keeping one hand on Elijah's shoulder. Her grip was firm, not quite painful, but close. Class, let me teach you something valuable. Lots of people work at the Pentagon, thousands of people. Do you know what most of them do? Madison raised her hand eagerly. Important government stuff? Some of them, yes, but most? Ms. Whitmore's voice took on a theatrical tone. Most of them are support staff, janitors who clean the bathrooms, kitchen workers who serve food in the cafeteria, security guards who check IDs at the door, maintenance people who fix broken toilets. She squeezed Elijah's shoulder. There's absolutely nothing wrong with those jobs. Honest work is honorable work, but it's not the same as being a general or an admiral, is it? Several students shook their heads. Elijah, honey, What does your father actually do at the Pentagon? Does he push a cleaning cart? Does he mop floors after the important people go home? The words hit like slaps. Elijah's vision blurred with tears. He doesn't clean. He's a general. He told me. Ms. Whitmore laughed, not a chuckle. A full, loud laugh that filled every corner of the room. Oh, sweetheart. A general? She turned to the class again, eyebrows raised in exaggerated disbelief. Class, do we think Elijah's father is a general in the United States Army? No, several students called out, giggling. A blonde girl named Brittany raised her hand. Ms. Whitmore, my dad says most black people don't go to college. How could his dad be a general? Ms. Whitmore's smile tightened, but she didn't correct Brittany. Instead, she nodded slowly. Well, Brittany, that's not quite how I'd phrase it, but you're right that becoming a general requires many, many years of education and experience. It's extremely rare. The odds are— She paused for effect. Very unlikely. A boy named Connor spoke up without raising his hand. My uncle is a janitor. Is that what your dad is, Elijah? A janitor pretending to be important? The class erupted in laughter. Ms. Whitmore let it continue for 3 full seconds before raising her hand for quiet. Elijah's tears spilled over. They ran hot down his cheeks. His throat felt thick. My dad doesn't lie to me, he whispered. Oh, honey. Ms. Whitmore crouched down, bringing her face level with his. Her perfume smelled like fake flowers. Sometimes parents tell children things to make them feel special. It's not lying exactly. It's more like wishful thinking. She reached up and took his poster from his shaking hands. Let's look at this. My dad, Pentagon hero. She read it aloud in a baby voice, like she was talking to a toddler. Did you make this all by yourself? Yes, ma'am. No help from Dad? He didn't tell you what to write? He said I could tell everyone about his job. He said he was proud. I'm sure he is proud, sweetie. Proud that you're trying so hard. She stood up, still holding the poster. But we can't present fantasy as fact. That's called lying. She walked to her desk and set the poster down. Not gently. She placed it face down and pushed it aside like trash. Class, what have we learned today? Madison's hand shot up. Don't lie about your parents' jobs? Exactly. And what else? Be realistic, Tyler Rodriguez said quietly. He looked uncomfortable. Yes, be realistic. Understand your place in the world. Ms. Whitmore beamed like she'd taught a brilliant lesson. Brittany raised her hand again. Ms. Whitmore, if Elijah's dad isn't a general, what should he have said for career day? Great question, Brittany. Ms. Whitmore turned back to Elijah. Elijah, if your father works in food service or maintenance at the Pentagon, that's perfectly fine. You could have said, my dad helps keep the Pentagon running. That would have been truthful. Honest work is nothing to be ashamed of. She paused. But pretending he's someone important? That's shameful. The words hung in the air like poison. Connor whispered loudly to the boy next to him. Bet his dad doesn't even work there. Bet he's lying about the whole thing. Several kids nodded. A girl named Emma whispered, maybe his dad is unemployed. Ms. Whitmore heard every word. She said nothing to stop it. Elijah stood frozen at the front of the room. His poster was gone. His pride was shattered. The pictures he'd printed so carefully might as well have been blank paper. Can I sit down? His voice cracked. Of course, honey, go ahead. Ms. Whitmore waved him away dismissively. And Elijah? Next time, let's stick to the truth, okay? I know it's hard when you want your family to seem important, but honesty matters more than pride. Elijah walked back to his desk in the corner. Each step felt like walking through water. His classmates' eyes followed him. Some whispered. Some laughed behind their hands. Tyler turned in his seat and mouthed, I'm sorry. but he didn't say it loud enough for Ms. Whitmore to hear. Elijah collapsed into his chair, his face burned with shame and rage and hurt that had no name. His chest felt tight, like he couldn't breathe properly. The desk was old, scarred with pencil marks and carved initials. He traced them with his finger, trying not to cry harder, trying to disappear. Whitmore moved on without missing a beat. "All right, class. Next up, we have Madison's mother. Mrs. Thornton is a marketing executive at a Fortune 500 company. Now this should be interesting." Madison's mom stood up from the back row, beaming. She wore a designer suit and carried a sleek presentation folder. "Thank you so much, Patricia. I'm thrilled to be here." Patricia. First name basis. Ms. Whitmore practically glowed. Madison is so lucky to have such a successful mother. Class, pay attention. This is what real achievement looks like. In the back corner, Elijah pulled his emergency phone from his pocket. His dad had given it to him with strict instructions. "Only for emergencies, son. Real emergencies." This was real. His fingers shook as he typed. "Dad, please come now. The teacher says you're lying. Everyone is laughing. Says you mop floors. I want to go home. Please, Dad." He hit send. The message was delivered. A blue checkmark appeared. Elijah put his head down on his desk. Ms. Whitmore glanced back at him once and smiled. A satisfied smile, like she'd won something. "Elijah, head up, please. We're learning about real careers now." He lifted his head, tears still wet on his face. Madison's mom was talking about quarterly earnings and market penetration strategies. Ms. Whitmore nodded along enthusiastically, asking questions, praising every answer. The clock on the wall read 2:47 p.m. In a briefing room at the Pentagon, 12 miles away, General Lawrence Carter felt his phone buzz against his leg. He was sitting at a conference table with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. A colonel was mid-sentence about force deployments. Lawrence glanced at his phone under the table. He read Elijah's message. His jaw clenched. The muscle in his temple twitched. Admiral Henderson, sitting beside him, noticed. "Larry, you okay?" Lawrence stood. "Gentlemen, I apologize. I have a family emergency." The chairman of the Joint Chiefs looked up. "Is everything all right, General?" "My son needs me. That's all that matters." Lawrence's voice was steel. "We'll continue this tomorrow." He was out of the room in 10 seconds. 3 minutes later, his Honda Accord was exiting the Pentagon parking garage. 12 minutes to Jefferson Elementary. His hands gripped the steering wheel tight enough to make his knuckles pale. On his shoulders, 4 stars caught the afternoon sunlight streaming through the windshield. Someone had hurt his son. Someone had called his boy a liar. That someone was about to meet a 4-star general. The classroom door opened at 2:53 p.m. Not gently, purposefully. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Polished dress shoes on tile, deliberate and measured. Ms. Whitmore was mid-laugh at something Mrs. Thornton said. The laugh died in her throat. General Lawrence Carter filled the doorway, 6'2" of coiled authority. Army service uniform pressed to razor creases. 4 silver stars gleamed on each shoulder board, catching fluorescent light and throwing it back like warnings. His chest told 30 years of stories, ribbons stacked in perfect rows, bronze star with valor, purple heart with oak leaf cluster, Defense Distinguished Service Medal, Legion of Merit. The combat infantry badge sat above them all. Below the ribbons, his nameplate, Carter. His face was granite, jaw set, eyes scanning with tactical precision. This was a man who commanded thousands, briefed presidents, made decisions that changed wars. The room fell into weighted silence. 25 students forgot to breathe. Parents in back straightened unconsciously. Mr. Rodriguez, a former Marine, recognized the rank and came halfway out of his chair. Ms. Whitmore's face drained white. Her hand flew to her throat. The cream cardigan that seemed crisp moments ago suddenly looked cheap. She knew military rank. Her father had been an army colonel. She could read 4 stars from across a room. She understood what they meant. Her voice squeaked. She cleared her throat. We're in the middle of presentations. Lawrence's voice cut like a blade through silk. Deep. Calm. Terrifying in its control. I apologize for my tardiness. Traffic from the Pentagon was considerably heavier than anticipated. He let the Pentagon hang in the air. His eyes locked on Ms. Whitmore. I'm General Lawrence Carter, United States Army. I believe my son, Elijah, was presenting about my work. The emphasis on general was surgical. Elijah's head snapped up from his desk. Dad, he whispered. Relief and shame warred on his face. Fresh tears spilled. Lawrence's eyes found his son in the back corner. Rage flickered across his face, carefully controlled. He held Elijah's gaze for 3 seconds. Silent message. I'm here. You're safe. Then he turned to Ms. Whitmore. She moved now, animated by panic. Her hands fluttered. She reached for Elijah's poster, tried setting it upright, and knocked pens over. They clattered across the floor. General Carter. What a surprise. We had no idea. Elijah mentioned, but children sometimes exaggerate. Do they? Not a question. Not lying exactly, just, we thought perhaps he'd misunderstood. Misunderstood what, Ms. Whitmore? Her mouth opened and closed. His father's position. At the Pentagon. We assumed. What did you assume? Lawrence took 3 steps into the classroom. Each footfall is deliberate. Please. I'm interested in your assumptions. Mrs. Thornton froze mid-gesture, marketing presentation forgotten. She sat back down slowly. Miss Whitmore tried laughing. The sound strangled. It was just a funny misunderstanding, wasn't it, Elijah? Elijah stared at his desk. Elijah. Lawrence softened when speaking to his son. Look at me. The boy raised red-rimmed eyes. Are you all right? Your message concerned me deeply. She said, Elijah's voice broke. She said you don't really work at the Pentagon. She said I was lying. She said you mop floors and clean toilets. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Lawrence's face remained calm, more frightening than yelling. She said that, in front of your classmates. Yes, sir. And what else? Elijah's hands twisted. She said I was making up stories, that you weren't important, that I should be ashamed for pretending. Each word landed like hammer blows. Lawrence turned to Ms. Whitmore fully. Is this accurate? That's not what I meant. Did you or did you not suggest my son was lying about my position? I was teaching honesty. Did you or did you not imply I work in janitorial or food services? I said many people work at the Pentagon in support roles. Answer the question, yes or no. Her face flushed red, shame and anger mixing. Children need to learn not to exaggerate. Yes or no? I may have suggested he'd misunderstood. Mr. Rodriguez stood in back. General Carter, sir. I recorded career day. You'll want to see this. Every head swiveled. Tyler's father, 40-something with close-cropped hair and veteran bearing, held up his phone. I've got the whole thing. Her exact words. Ms. Whitmore went white again. That's not necessary. Please, Lawrence said. Send it to me. Right now, sir. Mr. Rodriguez tapped his screen. What's your email? Lawrence recited his official Pentagon address, Army Mill. The email whooshed across digital space. Another parent, an Asian woman, raised her hand. General, I heard what she said. She made air quotes when Elijah mentioned the Pentagon. She threw his poster away. She didn't throw, Ms. Whitmore started. You put it face down and shoved it aside, the woman continued. My daughter's in this class. She's told me how you treat Elijah differently. Lower grades for the same work. Never calling on him. That is absolutely not. I compared test scores, Mr. Rodriguez cut in, voice sharp. My son Tyler and Elijah study together. Same answers. Tyler gets A's. Elijah gets B's and C's. Ms. Whitmore's hands clenched into fists. I don't appreciate these accusations. A black woman stood. My daughter Aisha is in this class. Ms. Whitmore tells her she talks too much, moves her away from students. Aisha has a 98 average but only 3 achievement stars. Evidence building like prosecution. Lawrence pulled out his phone, tapped the screen. Mr. Rodriguez's video played, volume loud enough for everyone. Ms. Whitmore's voice crackled. The Pentagon? Oh, honey, let's be real. Your daddy pushes a mop there, doesn't he? Cleans toilets, empty trash cans for the real workers. Children's laughter in the background. Her voice again. Does he push a cleaning cart? Mop floors after important people go home? Every cruel word, every dismissive laugh, every humiliating pat. Lawrence let it play for 30 seconds, then stopped. The silence afterward was deafening. Ms. Whitmore? His voice is quiet now, lethally quiet. My son told the truth. You called him a liar. I never used that word. You implied it, repeatedly, publicly, in front of his peers. Lawrence's jaw muscles worked. You humiliated an 8-year-old because you couldn't believe a black man could be a general. That's not what this was. Then what? He stepped forward. Explain why you assumed janitorial work. Why food service? Why those assumptions instead of believing his words? She stammered. Many people work at the Pentagon in support, and you assumed I was one. Based on what information? She had no answer that wouldn't indict her. Lawrence turned to the class. 25 pairs of eyes stared. Some are guilty, some are curious, some are beginning to understand. Class, may I complete my son's presentation? Ms. Whitmore couldn't refuse. Not with parents watching. Not with her words still echoing. Of course, she managed. Lawrence walked to the front. He moved past Ms. Whitmore without looking. She shrank against her desk. He stood where Elijah had stood 20 minutes ago. But when General Lawrence Carter stood somewhere, he commanded it. My name is General Lawrence Carter. I've served the United States Army for 25 years. I currently hold the rank of 4-star general, one of only 41 in our entire military. He pulled out his military ID. Hold it up. 4 stars visible. This identification grants me access to the Pentagon, White House Situation Room, and classified facilities worldwide. I advise the Secretary of Defense on counterterrorism operations across 4 continents. He swiped his phone. Hold up a photo. Him in the Situation Room beside the President. Faces blurred for security, but location unmistakable. Last month, I briefed the Senate Armed Services Committee. Next week, I will fly to NATO headquarters in Brussels. Students stared, transfixed. My son told you these things. With pride. Lawrence's voice is gentle now, but carrying steel underneath. And someone in authority refused to believe him. He let it sink in. Ask yourselves why. Why was his truth hard to believe? What about my son made you doubt him? Brittany, the blonde girl from earlier, raised her hand slowly. Because he's... She trailed off, understanding finally. Yes? Lawrence prompted. Nothing, she whispered. Because he's black. Lawrence said it for her. That's the word you couldn't say. Several students looked down, shame creeping in. My son is brilliant. Test scores in the 95th percentile nationally. Reads at 6th grade level. Excels at mathematics. Lawrence pulled a folder from his uniform jacket. Yet somehow in this classroom he has 2 achievement stars while students with lower scores have 15. He opened the folder, pulled out 2 papers. Math tests from last month. Identical answers. Tyler Rodriguez received an A with a gold star. My son received a B- with needs improvement. He held them up. The work was identical. The grades were not. Elijah sits in the back corner away from other students, gets called on last, assigned to remedial groups despite advanced abilities. Lawrence's eyes swept the room. This is called bias. Remember that word. The door opened. Principal Dr. Sarah Harrison stepped in, flushed from hurrying. She took in the scene. General Carter at front, Ms. Whitmore pale and shaking, parents standing, students silent. General Carter, I just heard... She stopped. Recognized the rank. Sir, I'm so sorry. Can we speak in my office? Yes. Lawrence turned to the class. Students, remember this. Truth matters. Character matters. Never let anyone make you doubt your worth based on how you look. He walked to Elijah's desk, knelt to eye level. Son, get your things. We're going to the principal's office. Elijah grabbed his backpack with shaking hands. Lawrence placed his hand on his son's shoulder, protective, proud. Ms. Whitmore. Lawrence's voice was ice. You'll join us, now. Not a request. She followed on trembling legs, cardigan wrinkled, sweat staining armpits. As they walked out, Tyler called after them. Elijah, your dad is awesome. Other students murmured agreement. Not all, but some. The door closed. The hallway stretched ahead, empty and echoing. Ms. Whitmore's career was walking toward its end. She just didn't know it yet. The principal's office smelled of coffee and old carpet. Dr. Sarah Harrison closed the door with a soft click that sounded like a gavel. General Carter remained standing. Elijah sat beside him in a leather chair too big for an 8-year-old. Ms. Whitmore perched on the edge of another chair, hands twisting in her lap. Dr. Harrison pulled up something on her computer. Her face tightened. Ms. Whitmore, I'm watching a video just emailed to me. A parent recorded career day. Her voice was carefully neutral. Is this your voice? She turned the monitor. Audio played through desktop speakers. Ms. Whitmore's voice, clear as crystal. Does your father mean he works at the Pentagon mall food court? Student laughter. Her voice again. Does he mop floors, clean toilets, empty trash cans for the real workers? More laughter. The sound of a poster slapped down on a desk. Dr. Harrison paused the video. Well? I was joking. Light-hearted banter. Ms. Whitmore's voice climbed higher. My 8-year-old son texted me in tears from your classroom. Lawrence's voice cut like a scalpel. That's not humor. That's cruelty. He misunderstood my tone. 25 witnesses understood your tone perfectly. Lawrence pulled the folder from his uniform jacket. It landed on the principal's desk with a thump. I've documented concerns for 6 months. Dr. Harrison opened it, and her eyes moved across pages. Lawrence continued. Test scores showing Elijah's high achievement versus his low classroom grades. Notes claiming he disrupts class when he doesn't. Seat assignments consistently move him away from high-performing students. He pulled out more papers. Side-by-side tests. Tyler's with an A, Elijah's with a B-. Identical answers. Dr. Harrison, I'm not just a concerned father. Lawrence's eyes were steel. I'm a black father who knows bias when he sees it. I've been seeing it for 6 months. Ms. Whitmore's face flushed red. I have high standards for all students. Then explain this. Lawrence laid out another document. Elijah scored 96th percentile on state tests. His classroom average in your class is 82. Tyler scored 89th percentile. His classroom average is 95. Dr. Harrison's jaw tightened, examining the papers. Explain why Elijah has 2 achievement stars while students with lower performance have 15. Different students respond to different motivational techniques. Explain why my son sits in the back corner despite having the 3rd highest reading level. He needed a focus accommodation. He doesn't disrupt. You never tested him for attention issues. You just moved him away from white students. Lawrence's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. You isolated him, marginalized him, made him feel worthless for 6 months. Ms. Whitmore stood abruptly. I will not be accused of racism. I've dedicated my life to education. Sit down. Dr. Harrison's voice cracked like a whip. Ms. Whitmore sat. This isn't the first complaint, is it? Lawrence's question stopped her cold. Dr. Harrison's eyes flickered. General Carter, are there other complaints about Ms. Whitmore's treatment of students of color? The principal's silence was enough. Lawrence leaned forward. How many complaints have been filed and ignored? 3. The word came from Ms. Whitmore. Her voice is bitter now, defensive walls crumbling. 3 complaints in 5 years, all dismissed, because I'm tenured, because my father was a congressman, because I get results. What kind of results? Lawrence's voice was deadly quiet. My class has the highest test scores in the district. Because you teach well or because you push out students who might lower your averages? Her face went white, then red. How dare you? How dare you? Lawrence stood to full height. 4 stars caught the office light. You called my son a liar in front of his peers. You mocked his pride in his father. You threw away his presentation like garbage. His voice never rose. That made it more powerful. You violated his dignity because you couldn't believe a black man could achieve what I've achieved. You assumed janitor, food service, poverty, and dishonesty. That's not... You know what my son asked me last month? Lawrence's jaw muscles worked. He asked if something was wrong with him, if he was stupid, because no matter how hard he worked, you made him feel worthless. Elijah's small voice broke the silence. She does it to Jamal and Aisha, too. Every adult turned to him. She makes Jamal sit alone. She tells Aisha she's too loud. She gives us lower grades than white kids for the same work. His voice was small, but certain. Tyler knows. He told me it's not fair. Truth from a child's mouth carried more weight than any document. Dr. Harrison closed the folder. Her face was grim. Ms. Whitmore, effective immediately, you are placed on administrative leave pending full investigation by the school board. You can't do this. I'm tenured. I can, and I am. There's video evidence and a documented pattern of discriminatory behavior. This is one parent's word against mine. It's 3 families' complaints, video evidence, statistical analysis of your grading patterns, and a 4-star general filing a formal complaint with the Virginia Department of Education. Dr. Harrison's voice was ice. Ms. Whitmore's face crumpled. Please, I'll apologize. I'll do better. You'll collect your personal items. Security will escort you. Dr. Harrison picked up her phone. This is my career. You should have thought of that before you humiliated a child. Lawrence's words were final. Ms. Whitmore looked at Elijah. I'm sorry. I never meant... You meant every word. Lawrence put his hand on his son's shoulder. We're done here. Dr. Harrison made the call. Within minutes, a security officer appeared. Ms. Whitmore stood on shaking legs. Her cream cardigan was wrinkled beyond repair. Her face was blotchy with tears and rage and fear. She walked out between the security officer and the ruins of her reputation. Lawrence knelt beside Elijah. You did nothing wrong, son. You told the truth. That's all I've ever asked. Elijah nodded, tears streaming fresh. And son, you were brave speaking up about Jamal and Aisha. That took courage. Dr. Harrison cleared her throat. General Carter, I owe you and your son an enormous apology. This should never have happened. Yes, you should have acted sooner. Lawrence stood. I'll be filing complaints with the State Board and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. My son deserves better. Every child here deserves better. He took Elijah's hand. They walked out together. Behind them, Dr. Harrison sat at her desk, already drafting the hardest email of her career. A teacher was gone, but the damage remained. The hallway stretched long and fluorescent bright. Ms. Whitmore walked between the security officer and 20 years of career crumbling behind her. She carried a small cardboard box. Inside, a coffee mug, 3 photos, a sweater. Everything else would be mailed later. She wasn't allowed back. Classroom doors had windows. Faces appeared as she passed. Teachers she'd known for years. Some looked away. Some stared. None spoke. Her heels clicked on the tile. Each step felt like an execution. Behind one door, her former students watched. Their teacher is being escorted out like a criminal. Tyler turned to classmates. Good. She was mean to Elijah. Outside, General Carter opened his Honda's door. Elijah climbed in, clutching his crumpled poster. Lawrence buckled him in. You hungry, son? Elijah shook his head. He looked exhausted. How about ice cream anyway? A small nod. They sat in a corner booth. Elijah picked at his chocolate cone. Lawrence watched his son process trauma. Dad? Elijah's voice was small. Yes, son? Did I get Ms. Whitmore fired? Lawrence's chest tightened. No. Ms. Whitmore got herself fired. She chose cruelty. She chose humiliation. Those were her choices, not yours. But if I hadn't told you, then she would have kept hurting you, and Jamal, and Aisha, and the next black child. Lawrence took his son's hand. You did the brave thing. You told the truth. Never apologize for that. Elijah's eyes filled with tears. I just wanted to tell everyone you were cool. I know, buddy. They sat in silence. The ice cream melted. 48 hours later, the school board held an emergency meeting. The room was packed. General Carter sat in the front row. 3 other families of color sat nearby, finally willing to speak. Dr. Harrison presented the video evidence. Board members watched in silence. Some faces showed shock, some showed guilt. Ms. Whitmore's attorney tried minimizing. My client acknowledges poor word choice. She's willing to undergo sensitivity training. Sensitivity training? Mrs. Johnson, a black board member, cut him off. We're talking about years of racial discrimination. Mr. Rodriguez stood. I compared grades, identical work, different outcomes. I have spreadsheets. Another parent stood. Students of color are consistently placed in back corners, away from resources. And a third parent. We complained 2 years ago. We were told we were overly sensitive. Evidence piled like bricks. Test scores showing grading disparities. Disciplinary records showing black students referred 3 times more often. Achievement gaps of 60%. The board deliberated for 3 hours. Ms. Whitmore sat outside, black suit replacing cream cardigan. Her face was stone. Her hands shook. The board returned. After reviewing evidence, we find substantial proof of discriminatory practices. Ms. Patricia Whitmore's employment is hereby terminated, effective immediately, for cause, no severance. Her attorney stood. We intend to appeal. You may appeal, but she won't teach here again. Ms. Whitmore's face crumpled. Everything is gone. Outside, news vans had gathered. Arlington News Now, WJLA, The Washington Post. Reporters surrounded General Carter. Cameras flashed. Microphones thrust forward. General Carter, what do you want people to know? Lawrence looked directly into cameras. 3 families complained before me and were ignored. My son is brilliant, kind, and honest. Black children shouldn't need a 4-star general as a father to be believed. The clip went viral within hours. By evening, the video had 2 million views. A stand with Elijah was trending. Comments were brutal. Ms. Whitmore's social media flooded. She deleted everything. Too late. Screenshots lived forever. Her father, the retired congressman, released a statement. "I'm deeply disappointed in my daughter's actions." Her husband's law firm issued a statement. "Mr. Whitmore's personal matters do not reflect our values." Both distancing themselves. Job applications to other schools went unanswered. Her reputation preceded her. No one wanted the teacher from that video. The Virginia Department of Education opened an investigation into her teaching license. The outcome was inevitable. Ms. Whitmore sat in her expensive house, surrounded by privileges that once protected her. They couldn't anymore. Her phone buzzed. Former colleagues unfriending her. One text from Tyler's mother. "I'm ashamed I didn't speak up sooner. My son saw everything." Ms. Whitmore didn't respond. Teaching awards sat on her mantle. Teacher of the Year 2019. Excellence in Education 2021. They meant nothing now. Within a week, she became a cautionary tale. Teaching programs across Virginia used her case as an example. What not to do. How bias destroys. Her name became synonymous with racism in education. Patricia Whitmore, once untouchable, was now unemployable. Her teaching license hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. The evidence was overwhelming. Video testimony, statistical analysis, 3 families willing to testify. Her attorney advised settling, surrendering her license voluntarily, avoiding public hearing. She refused. Pride wouldn't let her. That pride would cost her everything. Meanwhile, General Carter filed formal complaints with the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. He contacted the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. He wasn't finished. Ms. Whitmore's consequences were immediate and brutal, but they were just beginning. Justice moves slowly, but when it moves, it's thorough. The story exploded beyond Arlington within 72 hours. CNN picked it up first. Anderson Cooper opened with the video. Tonight, a 4-star general who refused to let his son's humiliation go unanswered. The clip played. Ms. Whitmore's contemptuous voice. "Does your daddy push a mop there?" Then the door opened. General Carter in full uniform, 4 stars gleaming. MSNBC ran it. Fox News covered it. The Washington Post ran the front page. 4 stars weren't needed to believe him. Social media exploded. #Stand with Elijah. #Believe Black Kids. Millions of shares. Parents of color sharing their stories. My son was told he couldn't have written his essay because it was too articulate. My daughter was aggressive when just speaking normally. My child was moved to remedial classes despite gifted scores. Stories poured in. A dam breaking. General Carter gave one interview. NBC Nightly News. Arlington living room, Elijah beside him. Why go public? Because 3 families complained and were ignored. Because silence enables injustice. My son deserves better. Every child does. Elijah held his wrinkled poster. My dad, Pentagon hero. The image went viral. Parents across America printed it, shared it. The Pentagon press secretary issued a statement. General Carter is one of our finest leaders. His son has every right to be proud. We stand with the Carter family. Photos were released. Carter in the Situation Room, meeting the Secretary of Defense, briefing the president. Every image reinforced what Ms. Whitmore refused to believe. The federal investigation moved quickly. The Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights sent investigators to Jefferson Elementary. Subpoenas, data analysts, 5 years of grades examined, every disciplinary referral, every achievement award, every complaint. They interviewed staff, students, and parents. The patterns were undeniable. Statistical analysis revealed shocking disparities in Ms. Whitmore's classroom. Black students averaged 0.7 grade points lower for comparable work. Disciplinary referrals 3.2 times higher. Achievement recognition 62% lower. Seating showed clear segregation. Black students in back corners. The report was damning. 47 pages of evidence. Conclusion: substantial and systematic racial bias, creating a hostile educational environment in violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Jefferson Elementary was placed on federal watch. The district lost $2.3 million in funding. The superintendent implemented immediate reforms: mandatory implicit bias training, anonymous reporting system, diverse hiring initiatives, regular equity audits. The school board chair resigned. Ms. Whitmore's teaching license hearing arrived 6 weeks later. The Virginia Department of Education hearing room was small. Fluorescent lights. 3 board members at a long table. Ms. Whitmore arrived in a navy suit, her attorney beside her. Her face had aged. Dark circles. Hair less perfect. Evidence was presented methodically. The video played again. 3 families testified. Mr. Rodriguez: my son came home crying because he didn't understand why Elijah got punished for things Tyler didn't. Mrs. Carter: my daughter asked if her skin color made her bad at math. She's in the 98th percentile. Mr. Williams: we complained 2 years ago. Nothing happened. Our daughter transferred schools. Former students testified. A high school student: she told me to focus on sports instead of academics. I'm now in AP classes. General Carter testified last, in uniform. Ms. Whitmore didn't just hurt my son. She damaged his sense of self-worth. She made him question his own father's honesty. She taught other children that black students deserve less. That's not education. That's indoctrination into racism. Ms. Whitmore's attorney tried defending. My client made a mistake. One incident? The board chair cut him off. We have documented patterns spanning years, video evidence, statistical proof. Ms. Whitmore was given a chance to speak. She read from prepared remarks. I deeply regret my actions toward Elijah Carter. I never intended harm. I recognize my words reflect unconscious biases I need to address. The words were hollow, scripted. Everyone heard the lack of sincerity. The board deliberated 30 minutes. Decision: Ms. Patricia Whitmore's teaching license is hereby revoked for 5 years. Reinstatement will require extensive anti-bias education, psychological evaluation, and demonstration of changed behavior. A permanent notation will remain on her record. 5 years. Career ending. By the time she could potentially teach again, she'd be 47 with a gap and discrimination record. No school would hire her. Her appeal was denied within 3 weeks. Meanwhile, General Carter filed a civil lawsuit. For Elijah. Claims: intentional infliction of emotional distress, violation of civil rights, discrimination. Defendants: Ms. Whitmore and the school district. The district's insurance company immediately pushed for settlement. The video made the trial impossible to win. Settlement conference 6 months later. Carter's attorney laid out terms: $175,000 in trust for Elijah's education. Public apology from the school board. The Elijah Carter Equity Scholarship. $50,000 annually for students of color facing discrimination. Annual equity reports published publicly. Ms. Whitmore must issue a public apology. The district must fund anti-bias initiatives for 5 years. The district agreed. Ms. Whitmore was personally liable for $25,000 from her retirement savings. The public apology was recorded, required by settlement. Ms. Whitmore sat before a camera looking diminished. I deeply regret my actions toward Elijah Carter. My words were cruel, inappropriate, and reflected racial bias. I caused harm to a child who deserved support. I apologize to Elijah, General Carter, and all students I failed. She stumbled over words. Her eyes were dead. She meant none of it. But the apology was public record, forever attached to her name. The money was divided. $87,500 to Elijah's college fund. $87,500 donated by Carter to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Other families don't have generals as fathers, Lawrence told reporters. They need protection too. The Elijah Carter Equity Scholarship launched that fall. First recipient, Aisha Williams. Jefferson Elementary transformed over the year. 40% teacher turnover. A new diversity and inclusion officer was hired. A black woman with 20 years experience. The curriculum was reviewed. Anti-racism education integrated starting in kindergarten. A student-led equity council was formed. Elijah was elected. The case became a teaching moment nationwide. Education schools studied it. The Carter case appeared in textbooks, used to train future teachers on implicit bias. Ms. Whitmore became a cautionary tale. Her name was spoken as a warning. Don't be like Patricia Whitmore. Her professional life was over. Her personal life is in ruins. Her husband quietly filed for divorce 8 months after the settlement. Her father stopped returning her calls. Former friends crossed the street to avoid her. She took a job as a receptionist at a dental office. Minimum wage. No benefits. A 42-year-old woman with a master's degree answering phones. Every new patient who Googled her name found the video, the humiliation, the consequences. She'd become exactly what she deserved, a permanent example of what happens when racism meets accountability. Within 18 months, similar cases emerged in 3 other states. Parents emboldened by the Carter case filed their own complaints. Schools took them seriously this time. The ripple effect was undeniable. One case in Georgia, a teacher who told a black student his natural hair was distracting, fired within a week. One in California, a teacher who consistently gave lower grades to Latino students, license suspended. One in Texas, a teacher who segregated seating by race, terminated immediately. Every time parents cited the Carter case. Every time administrators acted swiftly. Fear is a powerful motivator. Schools feared becoming the next Jefferson Elementary. Justice had been served. Thoroughly, publicly, permanently. But questions remained. How many Ms. Whitmores were still teaching? How many Elijahs were sitting in back corners right now? The fight was far from over. But this battle had been won. 6 months later. Elijah walked into Mr. Washington's 3rd grade classroom. The room looked different. Desks in collaborative circles, student work covering walls. Achievement stars are distributed evenly. Mr. Washington, a black man in his 30s, greeted each student with a handshake. "Good morning, Elijah. Ready for career day?" Elijah smiled, a real smile. "Yes, sir. My dad's coming. I'm looking forward to meeting him." The classroom had changed. Elijah sat in the front row now. Got called on first sometimes. Had 24 achievement stars. Earned fairly. His grades reflected his ability. Straight A's, math award, reading recognition. But more than grades, something else had changed. Elijah raised his hand eagerly, laughed with classmates, believed in himself. The damage was healing. Slowly, but healing. Career day started at 2 p.m. At 1:55, General Lawrence Carter walked in. Not alone. He brought Admiral Henderson and Colonel Martinez, full-dress uniforms, medals gleaming, the real Pentagon delegation. Mr. Washington stood. "Class, we have very special guests." 25 students sat up, not from fear, from genuine interest. General Carter moved to the front, looked at Elijah, winked. "Good afternoon. I'm General Lawrence Carter. This is Admiral Henderson and Colonel Martinez. We served together at the Pentagon." He set up a presentation. Real photos, satellite images, strategic maps. "We defend this country, all of us. Different backgrounds, different skin colors, same mission." Students asked questions. Smart questions. What's the hardest part of your job? Making decisions that affect thousands of lives, knowing every choice matters. Do you ever get scared? Every day. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the right thing despite fear. Tyler raised his hand. General Carter, I'm sorry about what happened with Ms. Whitmore. The room went quiet. Lawrence nodded. Thank you, Tyler. But you did the right thing. You defended my son. That took courage, too. After presentations, parents gathered in the hallway. They approached Lawrence. Thank him. One mother, tears in her eyes. My daughter faces this in her school. Your case gave me courage to speak up. Lawrence squeezed her hand. Document everything. Record when possible. Find allies. Don't stop until they listen. Driving home, Elijah was quiet. Dad? Yes, son? Why did Ms. Whitmore not believe you were important? Lawrence had prepared for this question. Son, some people make assumptions based on how someone looks. They see skin color before they see the person. That's wrong. That's why we speak up. That's why we never stop fighting. He glanced at Elijah in the rearview mirror. You were brave to text me that day. Never be afraid to tell the truth. I won't, Dad. And son, you never doubted yourself. Even when she tried to make you feel small, you knew who you were. You knew who I was. That strength? That's what matters. Elijah smiled. The poster from that day hung framed in his bedroom now. My dad. Pentagon hero. Not just true. Proven. Voiceover, General Carter speaking directly to the audience. My son learned a harsh lesson that day, but he also learned something powerful. He learned that truth matters, that speaking up matters, that justice, though slow, can prevail. I'm a 4-star general. I have privilege and a platform. I could make calls, demand meetings, force action. But what about the parents who can't? The single mothers working 2 jobs. The immigrant families are afraid to speak up. The working-class parents without connections. They face this same bias. Their children face this same cruelty. They don't have stars on their shoulders. They have love in their hearts and fear in their voices. We can't wait for generals to save the day. We need teachers who see every child's potential, parents who believe their children's truth, systems that don't require a uniform to demand respect. Elijah shouldn't have needed me to walk through that door. He needed a teacher who never doubted him in the first place. If you see bias, speak up. If you experience discrimination, document it. If you witness injustice, record it. Change happens when we refuse to stay silent. On-screen text appears, share this story, tag someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you believe in accountability. Comment below with your own experiences. Follow for more stories where justice prevails. D. The final questions appear one by one. How many Elijahs are sitting in classrooms right now being told their truth is a lie? How many children are doubted because of the color of their skin? How many parents are afraid to speak up because they don't wear a uniform? What will you do the next time you witness bias? Will you stay silent? Or will you be the voice that changes everything? Final image. Elijah and Lawrence at the Pentagon. Father's hand on son's shoulder. Both are proud. Both vindicated. Text overlay. Every child deserves to be believed. Hashtag believe all children. Justice. For Elijah. Final fade. This story is dedicated to every child who told the truth and wasn't believed. Your voice matters. Your truth matters. Never stop speaking up. The screen goes black, but the message remains.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.